Hello, ladies and gentlemen, hackers and traders. My name is Dr. J, and welcome to this, the fourth in our series about building a high-frequency trading system. Today, we are going to be drilling in on market data. What is it exactly? Where do we get it? And what is it used for? By the end of this video, you'll have some idea of why you're going to have hundreds, even thousands of cloud servers dutifully recording terabytes of data 24/7. It's literally digital oil. It's going to be big. It's going to be fun. This is Hacking and Trading. Stay tuned. So what is market data? Remember in episode 2 when we talked about markets, about apple farmers and smoothie producers? Well, market data is simply that data feed that tells us who's available in the market right now, either as buyers or sellers, at what price they're willing to trade, and what quantities they're willing to trade. Box 1 sort of recaps where we left off in episode 2. There are some people wanting to sell apples, the farmer and the market maker, and there's some people willing to buy apples, the market maker, smoothie producer, and a juice producer. In most markets, we don't know the identity of other market participants. We just know that someone is willing to buy or sell, and how much they're willing to buy and sell, and at what price. Box 2 sort of shows what we'll probably see instead of the detail of box 1, and that is the prices at which people are willing to buy crates of apples. Looking at box 3, often there is more than one person willing to buy or sell at the same price, and often they're willing to buy or sell more than one box of apples. Traders wanting to transact at the same price get priority in terms of how early they arrived at the exchange. First come, first served. Some exchanges might even allow non-integer amounts to be traded on the exchange. In this case, half a crate of apples. We call this the granularity of an exchange's trade quantity. While we might not know the identity of the traders at an exchange, some exchanges might give us at least the quantity that each trader wants to trade, buying or selling. If an order book has this level of detail, we call it a level 3 or L3 order book. Unfortunately, most exchanges won't tell us exactly how much each trader wants to buy or sell. This feature might actually help traders be protected from predatory behavior of other traders, but it's most probably down to reducing the total amount of data that exchanges have to send out to everyone who is interested in knowing what's going on in the market. In this case, the market data looks like it does in box 4. The orders are aggregated into quantities that are available for buying or selling at each price level. No more information than just that. In this case, it's called a level 2 or L2 order book. And this is probably the most common order book we're going to find across the crypto exchanges we're going to be trading on. So let's get real now. Let's move into the real world. Box 5 shows the Ethereum US dollar marketplace on Binance.com. This is an example of any of the exchange marketplaces that we might be looking at down the line. You can see that rather than round dollars, price granularity here is 2 decimal places. Price granularity is 0.01, or I prefer to use scientific notation because it just shows up much better in programming, 10 to the minus 2. And in this case, rather than trading apples, we're trading Ethereum. And here's the amount of Ethereum tokens you can be buying or selling. And you can see the price, the trade quantity granularity here is 10 to the minus 4, or 4 decimal places. So in this market, the smallest quantity of Ethereum you can buy is 0.0001 Ethereum. That's similar to buying 1 crate of apples. In this case, you can buy 0.0001 Ethereum coins. Now you're going to be buying that at a price of around 1,175.62. So you multiply those two together, you'll get your 10 to the minus 4 Ethereum for $1.17562. Make sure you work through these two examples here. Here's a little example of how when you want to be buying something, you'd be using the ask price. And here's when you want to be selling something, you'd be using the bid price. So it's the price times the quantity you want to be selling, gives you the total amount of dollars that you would earn for that Ethereum that you sold at that price level. And finally, just for completeness, box 6 shows us a level 1 order book. This is where an exchange shows us just the best bid and best offer prices and quantities in the market. You get no other information than the current best bid and best offer prices. While a level 1 order book may seem impoverished and potentially even useless to us, often it's an important source of market data because for a lot of exchanges, this form of order book exhibits the lowest exchange latency characteristics, often is the one that gives you the most alpha advantage in terms of getting new information before all the other more detailed order books get their information. So ignore it at your own peril. So where exactly do we get this market data? In the good old days, we had to write screen scrapers that would impersonate web browsers, request the HTML that you see on a normal web page, and extract the market data directly from that HTML source code. This was a very undesirable approach. How often should you scrape? Scrape too often, and you're going to be using huge amounts of data. You're going to probably be penalized by the website for hitting them too hard, like they think you might be doing a denial of service attack. But on the other hand, scrape too seldom and you're working with market data that could be out of date. If you're only polling every second or so, what happened to all the orders and all the information that happens in the 100 millisecond or 10 millisecond time periods? You're always going to be behind the market. There are still some exchanges where we have to do this, but fortunately, they're becoming few and far between. And who in their right mind would be willing to leave cash at an exchange with such antiquated and rickety architecture? Well, who indeed? The fewer people, the fewer experts trading at a particular exchange, the more ripe the opportunities. So think about it. Luckily, most exchanges hate being polled repeatedly because it unnecessarily costs them expensive bandwidth. So they have pretty much all adopted using WebSockets to disseminate their market data. Using WebSockets, we simply connect to the exchange using an everlasting connection and tell them which instruments we are interested in listening to. They, in response, send us initial snapshot of the order book and then just send streaming deltas to that order book. Instead of sending the entire order book every time, they just tell us which pieces of that order book have changed. This is obviously a significant reduction in the amount of data they have to send. This not only saves a lot of bandwidth, but it also can dramatically reduce the latency of your updates to the order book because they have to prepare and stream so much less data. To find the API for a particular exchange, the easiest is probably to go to Google and type the exchange name followed by API, and then it'll probably take you to a set of pages that shows all the kind of functions that are available in that API. Here you can see the OKX API and the Binance API. Every exchange pretty much has the same set of documentation. You get the sense that they sort of copied each other. Once one had stumbled onto a good idea, everyone just blindly copied it. Once you're on the API page of the exchange, to find the market data streaming services, look for words like WebSocket, book depth, streaming prices. Now, every exchange offers a variety of market data feeds, some that are unique to that exchange, but some that are common across pretty much every exchange out there. These feeds range widely in their level of detail, their granularity, the kind of information that they contain, their update frequency, their latency characteristics. So you need to sort of pay close attention to what's available to you from each of the exchanges. The foundational quote service infrastructure that we're going to be building for our high-frequency trading system are two components. Fundamentally, the level 2 order book, updated as close to real time as possible, and also the real-time flow of trades that are happening at the exchange. These two data sources are supported by pretty much every exchange out there. In much later episodes, we'll revisit this foundation, as a lot of juicy alpha can be found in like the sort of weird particular feeds that are available at certain exchanges. So remember, tell your friends about this, because I'm only going to get to like that level of detail if there are a lot of people interested in learning this kind of thing. So let's dive into how we receive the order book over a WebSocket connection from most exchanges. Box 1 shows us the initial snapshot that is sent to us soon after we subscribe to a particular instrument. Some exchanges might not even give us this snapshot via their WebSocket, and sometimes they send you off to get that snapshot elsewhere. But often in that case, well, just ignore the snapshot and leave a bit of a warm-up time so that the most interesting, most important, and obviously most frequently updating levels of the order book will flow in through the streaming mechanism. You don't necessarily need the snapshot to get going, as long as you have allowed some time to pass to allow the streaming data to flow in. So for each of the bid and the ask sides, we only have the price and the quantity of that particular currency available to buy or sell at each of those levels. So once you've received this initial snapshot, exchanges will then basically just stream the changes you need to apply to the snapshot, basically telling you which price levels need to be updated and which price levels need to be removed completely. By far, the most common approach is for an exchange to send you an array of the level updates, and each level update contains the price and the new quantity available at that level. Often if that quantity is 0, it means delete that level from your order book. Box 2 shows some example level updates on both sides. In this case, it's telling us that there are 3 quantity available at bid level 100 and 2 quantity available at level 200. You can see they've been inserted here into the order book. And on the ask side, you can see that there is now only 1 available at level 620 and 2 available at level 1000. You can see they've been updated in our order book there. Before there were 4 available at level 1000. We've now been told to update that with only 2 available. And similarly, before there was no 620 price ask level here, we've now been told that there is now 1 available at that level. So you can see level updates either will change an existing level or instruct you to insert a new level. Box 3 shows some examples of deleting a level. Most exchanges will send through a quantity of 0, but some exchanges will just actually send through the price levels that need to be deleted, just a list of the prices that are no longer available. So here you can see it's asked us to delete the bids at 100 and 200 and the ask at level 660. And as you can see, the order book has been diminished downwards there. Finally, box 4 shows the information we want to record about the trades that are being executed at the exchange in real time. We merely care about the price at which the trade happened, the quantity of the trade, and whether the taker of the trade was at the bid or the ask. Remember, the taker is the person agreeing to trade with someone already on the order book. So this is the person arriving second at the party. So remember, if the taker is selling, well, they are going to be selling to someone who's bidding on a price. So we will record that as a bid trade. The taker was on the bid side. Now, even if an exchange doesn't support level 2 order books, we can pretty much transform almost any data feed coming from an exchange into a virtual level 2 order book. Some exchanges will send us the entire order book every tick or maybe every few hundred milliseconds. And in that case, it's our job to compare the old and new book that they've sent us and look for the deltas. Other exchanges will send us level 3 detail, that is the actual orders that are going into the market. And it's our job to aggregate those orders up and to summarize them into a level 2 order book. And then when the exchange tells us some of those orders have disappeared from the market, we then need to remove those orders from our aggregated level 2 order books. So while writing the quote service layer to most exchanges, while that can be pretty boring and dry because you're really just mapping from, generally speaking, their JSON packets into our internal order book Delta format, Some exchanges have some real quirks in their market data feeds, and those can actually be quite challenging to write and quite fun to write, in fact, especially if you're sensitive to latency like we are. So what do we ultimately want to record to disk, and even beyond that, ultimately send through our algorithmic trading system? Well, the data structure that I've used is as follows. For every tick that we get, for every update we get to the order book from an exchange, I record the timestamp, the number of bids and ask level updates that are going to be inside this tick, and the number of trades that have been executed at the exchange during this tick or leading up to this tick. After that, we have all the bid level updates, all the ask level updates, and then all the trades. Each bid and ask level update is simply the price and the quantity. Remember, the quantity could be 0 if it means delete this from the order book. And each trade level update, remember, was the side, the bid of the ask, the price that the trade happened at, and the quantity of that trade. I implemented my recorders to start a new file every hour, and the file name contained the timestamp of the beginning of that hour, the name of the instrument and the exchange it's being recorded from. Also, as I stream to disk, I'm gzipping the data stream on the fly. It's surprising how much faster this makes the entire system in terms of writing to disk and loading from disk, because I guess CPUs are just so much faster than NVMe drives. There's less data to transfer over the PCI buses, recorded compressed, reloaded compressed, and then uncompressed in memory when you need it. And then finally, I have a cron job that runs every now and then that uploads these hourly data files up to Amazon S3 so that they're available later for all my simulations and for my alpha exploring research kind of process. Generally speaking, these 1 hour data files can range anywhere from, I don't know, a couple of megabytes for some fairly quiet instrument ticking on some fairly unvisited exchange, all the way through to potentially 100 megabytes of compressed data, for example, for Bitcoin ticking away on Binance. So prepare yourself for hundreds of gigs, perhaps even terabytes of Amazon cloud storage costs. So in this video, we have got you up and running, recording the bare minimum you're going to need as the market data level of your high-frequency trading system. If enough people end up subscribing to this channel, we're certainly going to revisit the market data recording service level, or the quote service level, because there are a number of vital things that we probably want to pay attention to. Should we use a one-to-one or fan architecture? Basically, should we write a standalone service that sits connected to exchanges, that aggregates all the data, and then our algorithms subscribe to it? Or should our algorithms just subscribe directly to the exchanges? There's some quite important trade-offs between these two approaches. Secondly, what kinds of self-healing do we need to build into the system? Sometimes exchanges will send us complete garbage, and we have to be resilient to that. Sometimes our connections will just drop unexpectedly because the network's faulty. Sometimes those connections won't even drop, but the data coming through the connections just disappears. We need to be resilient in all these kinds of scenarios because we have thousands of dollars trading, relying on the fact that this data is up to date, complete, and if it's not there, we need to do something about that. Also, by the very nature of TCP/IP, the subscribed data, the data that's being sent to us from the exchanges, may take vastly different routes across the internet. What can we do to make sure we're not being penalized by some dodgy router that's outside of our control on the internet? There are various approaches, there are various techniques that we can apply to make sure we're getting the best kind of data feeds possible. And finally, how do we combine the multiple feeds that come from a single exchange to produce a single picture that is both very timeless, it's like got very low latency characteristics, but also is very broadly complete. It has a lot of information about everyone who's trading in that market at the same time. By combining data feeds, you can certainly do a lot better than just relying on a single one of the data feeds. So if you like the sound of all of this and you want me to keep going, please remember, subscribe, hit the alert button. Most importantly, tell all your friends in the trading industry, or even those people who are just generally interested in programming, crypto, and finance, to please also subscribe. I'm going to probably only go past the initial 8 basics videos if there are enough people who are interested in learning about this. So make it happen. And with that, fellow hackers and traders, this is Dr. J signing out. I'll see you next time. Cheers.